All praise, glory, and honor is most certainly due to the Most High, the God of the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and peace to you. In the name of Jesus, this is your brother Elisha Israel of the household of faith, and I count it truly a blessing each and every single time that I can come before you to preach the word of God. Never do I count it as a light thing to do so. Just a little bit about the household of faith. We meet every Sabbath at 5925 West 25th Avenue in Gary, Indiana. And that's the household of faith. We meet every Sabbath at 5925 West 25th Avenue in Gary, Indiana. We also live stream right here on the Israel Teach YouTube channel, as well as at www.israelteach.org. So, peace to everybody that's listening and that will eventually hear this message. Today's lesson is entitled, We Have Accepted a Death Culture. Again, that topic is, we haven't accepted a death culture. You know, when you look at us as a people, you look at us in this sojourn in America, we have adopted all the ways that are death itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a couple of things pertaining to our current situation and to put things in perspective, because we have accepted death itself, literally, and they can't understand why we're in the position that we are in. So I want to read this because this is something that I talk about quite a great deal, and I'm not going to stop talking about it. And I came across this today. This is from the Center for Urban Renewal and Education. All right. Now, it says here, just to put these numbers in perspective, because I have been using pretty conservative numbers on purpose. But I just want to read some of these numbers here pertaining to abortion. And the title of this is on the issues. It says abortion is the biggest single negative force on Black American growth. Okay. So when you look at other so-called minority groups, with Latino population has surpassed us. One of the main reasons, is abortion. And I just want to read this. This is by Walter B. Hoyt II. It says, our best estimates based on a projection of the most recent data through the current period is that the current cumulative number of abortions from 1967 through June of this year is 59. I don't know why they picked 1967. I have to research that, why that particular year was chosen. Instead of the year Roe v. Wade was passed. But nevertheless, it says, from then to this time, even though abortion was going on at this time, abortion is nothing new. So it says 59.4 million. Okay. So 59.4 million abortions in the United States in general. And then listen to this, of which an estimated 20,350,000 are Black American abortions. So out of the almost 60 million abortions, 20 million have been Black people. Brothers and sisters, that's not by accident. There was a concerted effort to encourage you to not reproduce. You saw that with Margaret Sanger and how she appealed. If you look at the history, she appealed to Black leaders, okay, and pushed an agenda which is based on eugenics to prevent Black people from reproducing. So again, it says an estimated 20,350,000 are Black American abortions. Considering that the total current Black American population is about 42 million, the 20,350,000 Black American abortions are equal to 48.45% of the total Black American population. If not for abortion, the total Black American population will be approximately 62,350,000, or 48% greater than it is today. So now, when I say we've accepted a death culture, that's an example, brothers and sisters, of a death culture. The fact that we would just abort our children at astronomical rates. At astronomical rates. 12% of the population, 1/3 of all abortions at astronomical rates. So much so we've aborted what would be equivalent to half our current population. That's a death culture. That's a death culture. And what does the Bible say about children? Let's go to Psalms 127 division. Matter of fact, before I go there, let's go to Exodus, the first chapter. And see, because we just like they were in the sojourn, they're in slavery and bondage. We've been here, and we are here as the result of slavery or bondage. This is Exodus, the first chapter, and I want to pick it up at verse 7. Exodus 1 and verse 7. It says, and the children of Israel were fruitful and increased abundantly and multiplied and waxed exceeding mighty. And the land was filled with them. Now they in Egypt though. And the land was filled with them. Then it says something. It says in verse 8, now there arose up a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph, because it tells you in verse 6, and Joseph died and all his brethren and all that generation. So verse 9 says, and he said unto his people, behold, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we. Come on, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply, and it come to pass that when there falleth out any war, they join also unto our enemies and fight against us, and so get them up out of the land. Therefore they did set over them taskmasters to afflict them with their burdens. And they built for Pharaoh treasure cities, Pithom and Ramses, which is probably an anachronism. But it says in verse 12, but the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew, and they were grieved because of the children of Israel. So what did they do? They made them serve hard. It says, and the Egyptians made the children of Israel to serve with rigor. And they made their lives bitter with hard bondage, in mortar and in brick and in all manner of service. In the field, all their service wherein they made them serve was with rigor. Okay, so now they put hard bondage on the children of Israel, and then they did something else. What they did here says, and the king of Egypt spake to the Hebrew midwives, in which the name of the one was Shipra and the name of the other Pua. And he said, when ye do the office of a midwife to the Hebrew women and see them upon the stools, if it be a son, then ye shall kill him. But if it be a daughter, then she shall live. What did he put up? He put out, they declared a position of genocide. Okay, and these two midwives didn't go with it. Right? He said, hey, they gave him some story. They say, hey, listen, man, we come there. They already didn't deliver. They out of there. So what did he do? He charged in verse 22, it says, and Pharaoh charged all his people, saying, every son that is born ye shall cast into the river, and every daughter ye shall save alive. But why am I reading that? Because that was a program of genocide imposed upon our people. You saw it in the days of the Messiah with Herod, an agenda or a program of genocide. Brothers and sisters, we still have a program of genocide upon us. The only difference is that we are willingly going into these clinics having these abortions. That's the difference. We are willingly going into these clinics having these abortions. And why? And that's deaf culture. That's deaf culture. I know young people, 15, 16 had 2 abortions. Not a big deal for them. They listen, that's a deaf culture. But you got to think about it. Why are you that young and pregnant in the first place? You got to think about why are people having all these abortions? It's not because that's a whole nother issue. Women's health, Black women's health, and infant mortality rates. That's an issue. But you got a lot of women, they just killing they baby in the womb like savages. Killing their baby in the womb. And why? Because their health is in danger? No. Because the baby's health is in danger? No. Because it's been rape and incest? No. They doing it because a baby is inconvenient. And why is a baby inconvenient? Because you conveniently opened your legs to somebody that you were not in a covenant with. and you don't want to have a child with them, a baby is inconvenient, so you would say, you know what, I'm going to just kill it. And in a country such as this, that could take place where these hypocrite politicians just blocked a bill that will prevent infanticide. Here's the irony of that. And I don't know if I mentioned this or not. When you look at the State of the Union address that the president gave last month, he talked about infanticide, and he encouraged the Senate to put forth a bill that would protect these children. Because infanticide means basically what they're doing is, if the baby survives an abortionist's death tools and is born anyway, that they, once the baby outside the womb, they would kill it. That's infanticide. And that's what they were proposing. This is in Virginia, right? And so that's why he said what he said. Now you had all these Democrats, these female, and I'm not saying both Democrat or Republican or any of that. I'm just pointing out, I'm just making a point. They were wearing white. If you notice, if you look at the State of the Union, all of them were wearing white. And they were wearing white in honor of women's suffrage. That's why they were wearing white. Now, when you look at the suffragist movement, the push for women to get the right to vote, the idea, and they often wore white. Why did they wear white? They wore white because it was believed that women were more pure, particularly white women, right? Had a greater moral compass than men. And so they would wear white, and they would say, if we bring this morality into the political arena, there will be more peace in the country, and thus more peace in the world as these countries interact with one another. But you know Hillary Clinton, a killer. That's a false narrative. That's a false notion that women are somehow more pure or more moral than men. But that's what the thinking was at that time by a lot of the suffragists. And you can see when he said what he said, trying to protect the baby that's born into the world, none of them clapped. Why? Because they want to have the right to kill the baby in the womb and the baby that come right outside of the womb. But these are your leaders. These are your leaders. Let's find out let's find out Genesis. Let's go to Genesis 1. So I'm going to say something else too about what this is. Genesis 1. And I want to pick it up at verse, Genesis, let's see, Genesis, I want to say Genesis 1 and verse 28. Genesis 1 and verse 28. So here, this first dispensation, this first mandate that was given, I'm going to pick it up at verse 27 because we're going to get to this as well. It says, so God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him, male and female created he them, right? He made them male and female. And God blessed them, and God said unto them, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth and subdue it and have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the fowl of the air and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. So they were supposed to have dominion, but he said, be fruitful and multiply, right? He didn't say, kill your babies. He said, be fruitful and multiply, because what are children? Let's go to Psalms. Psalms 127 division. But you got a deaf culture going on. So in addition to not raising the children that come into the world properly, you got all those that you kill. The millions that have died. And everybody act like it's okay. Don't nobody say nothing about it. You want to get a sign of protest in the street because somebody gets killed in the street. Yeah, that you need to. Well, that's an antiquated ineffective thing to do, to be honest. And it is an issue, don't get me wrong. But at the same time, what about the baby in the womb? They ain't did nothing to nobody. Psalms 127:3, he said, lo, children are an heritage of the Lord, and the fruit of the womb is his reward. How in the world do we just kill our children without a pain of conscience, as that other hypocrite, Jesse Jackson, said? He spoke against abortion, but then when it was time for him to get, run for president, hey, he got to get with the program. A woman has a right to choose. Woman has a right to choose. You chose once you lay down. Sickening. Let's go to just to show you, because some will say, well, that's not a real, that ain't life, that ain't nothing. Well, let's read it, because embryologists will tell you that life began in the womb. Embryologists will tell you that life begins in the womb. There's no question about that. But let's read some of Exodus, the 21st chapter. Exodus 21. And it says here in 22, just to show you that the sanctity of life in the womb is shown through the Torah. This is Exodus 21:22. Because it don't say thou shalt not commit abortion, thou shalt not get an abortion, but it does say thou shalt not kill, which is thou shalt not murder. And here we see that the fruit of the womb, or the baby in the womb, has the same exact rights as somebody that's born into the world. And we'll see that here. This is Exodus 21:22. It says, if men strive and hurt a woman with child, so that her fruit depart from her, and yet no mischief follow, he shall be surely punished according as the woman's husband will lay upon him, and he shall pay as the judges determine. What does he mean? What does that mean? What it means is, if men are fighting, and in the process of the fight, a woman who is expecting, or a woman with child, is hurt, and her labor is induced by whatever took place. If that baby is born into the world and everything is okay with the baby, the man is still punished. The man is still punished. Because it says, again, if men strive and hurt a woman with child, so that her fruit depart from her, meaning it wasn't time for her to get to go into labor, but sometimes labor can be, induced on purpose. Sometimes doctors will do that, but sometimes things can happen. It could be undue stress on the woman or whatever. So then it says, so that her fruit depart from her, meaning she bear that fruit into the world. That baby comes into the world, and yet no mischief follow, meaning the baby's not dead. He shall be surely punished. That man that did that is still punished. It says, according as the woman's husband will lay upon him, and he shall pay as the judges determine. Listen to this, though. And if any mischief follow, meaning if the baby died, listen to what it said. Then thou shalt give life for life. What life for life? The baby's life? Now that man that did it, like, that shows you that that's a life. If it was just it's just an embryo, it's not real, you crazy. Or you wicked. Let me say that. You ain't crazy. You wicked. That's what it is. You wicked. I wrote a book, Killing Black Innocence, that talks about the program to control our reproduction. But let me read the next thing, because that's deaf culture, brothers and sisters. That's deaf culture. Now I want to read a couple articles. This is give me one moment. This just show you. Now these is, hold on one second. Just to show you how things are totally out of pocket. How it's all out of pocket. 1 second. I had it up and then some kind of way I erased it or something. Give me 1 second. Okay. This is I just want to read this and then I'm gonna read from this book here. Then we're gonna go into the scriptures. It's this tomfoolery here. That's from the Chicago Tribune. It says, now I don't even want to say this man's name. This man, he's an actor, wore a tuxedo and a dress. We should all feel, this is from Chicago Tribune. We should all feel empowered to make such bold choices. See, that shows you people have lost their doggone mind. This is from, let's see. He said, I understand why you date women. My grandmother once asked me, but do you have to wear men's clothes? She was, okay, this is somebody, hold on. I don't even want to read this, scratch that. I had one up already. Forgive me, folks. Let's see. I don't want to hear about somebody else's life story as they reading this. I mean, as they writing about it. Okay, I guess I go to there. I don't want to go here either. This one I had up, Cosmopolitan, I guess. Okay, so here it says Twitter is obsessed with Billy Porter. Well, I just said his name. Billy Porter's velvet tuxedo gown and TBH. I guess that means to be honest, so am I. Another one. Okay. Billy Porter showed up to the Academy Awards in a jaw-dropping velvet tuxedo ball gown by Christian Siriano, and everyone is shook. I mean, just look at his pose, his elegance, his amazingly frightly sleeves, and don't forget about the huge 20-karat yellow diamond ring on his finger. FYI, it's by Oscar Heyman and valued at a casual $900,000. As if that anyway. And he married to a Caucasian man. And you see all black Twitter going crazy, talking about how fierce this man is and how great it is, and how, like was just said in the Chicago Tribune, we should all be empowered to make such bold choices. First of all, that's not what you should be doing with yourself. It's just not. And I want to read something here. Now, I mean, the title is the ISIS Papers, and we understand that ISIS is a false Egyptian deity, nothing we subscribe to. But this is by Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, who was a psychiatrist, and she says something here that's to me it's valuable. Her analysis is valuable when you look at things and how they are, and the effemination of the black male. I often talk about a dearth of manhood. If that ain't a dearth of manhood, it's everywhere. Men in particular now, because the way, let me tell you something, the way things are now, to be masculine is to be negative. It's toxic, right? It's something wrong, right? It's always the propelling of women in front of men. Pay attention, look at TV. Look at TV. People don't talk about it though. They keep saying women are oppressed, women are oppressed, women are oppressed in society. No, they're not. They are the majority in society. They are majority in the workplace. They are the majority in the universities and colleges. They are the majority of doctors and lawyers. and you have a structure that which propels them on the basis of being women. Oftentimes, you have a structure that will a safety net that will catch women more so than men, even though without them having to be accountable for their actions. You have family courts that are biased against men in favor of women. You have all these things, right? Now, so you have it now. The thing is to emasculate men, not realizing that civilization was built by men. And your competition, true straight up competition to thrive is that's because of testosterone. You don't have that. You don't have you don't have the mighty empires and the civilizations that came into existence without men. Men built the roads you drive on. They did all the dangerous work. They cleared the land. They did all these things. All your great works, they did it. Men that did all these things. And nevertheless, right now you have a campaign or a push, a program, again, a death culture to emasculate men and black men in particular. That has always been the case. Because I'm going to say this, if you are enslaved, brothers and sisters, if we read in Deuteronomy 28 where it says that your children will be sold and your wives will be raped. If you are still alive, you are not a man. I understand it meant your life was on the line. That's not, so don't get me wrong. And this is not me being Kanye West, but what I am saying is this. Slavery kept black men in particular in a state of perpetual boyhood. I'm going to say that again. Slavery through sheer violence and terror kept men in a state of boyhood because you couldn't act as an autonomous being. You couldn't protect your family. You couldn't do what a man does. So even after that, you think about the social etiquette within the South, the idea of calling a grown man boy, the idea of a grown man referring to a grown black man be 65 years old, but he got to call this little 8-year-old boy sir. You can't look white men in the eye. That kind of thing. That's preventing you from being a man. The fear of black masculinity is real. You see it in the workplace even until this day. Don't wear your beard. You find out that the ones who are propelled up the corporate ladder are the ones who are most feminine acting. Because if men are there at all, because they would much rather have a black woman there. That's the reality. Brothers in the corporate world on their jobs know this to be true. They know this to be true. They will propel the woman or the female above the male because the male is always a threat. You always a threat. It's not by coincidence that we fill up the jails for nonviolent drug offenses when blacks, whites, Latinos sell and use drugs at approximately the same rates. We are always a threat. Even after slavery, you saw all the thousands of lynchings during the lynching century from approximately 1865 to 1968. Oftentimes, as Ida B. Wells stated, that it was because of the fear that these black men were dealing with some white woman. And it wasn't just them being hanged, they were castrated. Why? Because there was the fear. They feared genetic annihilation as Francis Cress Wilson. Because if you think about it psychologically, that's what's going on. There's no reason to castrate somebody if you hanging them on a tree. But that also emasculates you. A state of perpetual boyhood. That's what And they understand something. I'm gonna read something here. So why people talking about this is fierce and this is beautiful thing and everybody should be so bold? It's just a continuation of the emasculation of black men. And you see that, you've seen that throughout Hollywood, right? Your famous actors and comedians who for some, well, it's all by design, they become our spokespeople, right? Nobody else has comedians and ball players as their spokespeople. Forget all the scholars that we have. Our spokespeople gonna be somebody who was a comedian. Nobody else does that. Jim Carrey is not speaking for certain groups. That's just reality. But nevertheless, you see it where they emasculate them in the roles that they have, or it could be just a demeaning, emasculating role, or it could be straight up put on a dress. Put on a dress. You name all your famous comedians, the vast majority, a lot of them, the big name was, a lot of them, they were in dresses. They were in dresses. And it was even a interview between Oprah was interviewing Dave Chappelle, and he was talking about how, I think this is when he was with a movie with Martin Lawrence, it might have been Blue Streak if I'm not mistaken, and they wanted him to wear a dress. He said, I don't want to do it. He came in there dressed in his trailer. He said he thought he was in the wrong trailer or something to that effect. He said, I'm not doing it. And they was like, that's right, that's what he sure had one on in Men in Tights though. So they get you in that dress from Flip Wilson all the way back. They get you in that dress. They have you in these roles, right? So that's in addition to the depiction of black masculinity as hypersexual and hyperviolent and ignorant and uneducated. Okay, so I want to read this, what Frances Cress Welsing says on page 82. She says, 83. I'm in the third paragraph on page 83. This is in a chapter entitled, this is chapter 6, The Politics Behind Black Male Passivity, Effeminization, Bisexuality, and Homosexuality. So it says on page 83, paragraph 3, it says, during the past 400 years, black men in the U.S. have been forced into passive and cooperative submission to white men. The major strategy has been the installation of an overwhelming fear. I talked about that terror, right? Specific tactics range from actual physical castration and lynching to other overt and more subtle forms of abuse, violence, and cruelty. We should not be ashamed to recognize these tactics used to oppress black men. It is the truth. It is reality. Ultimately, this is the meaning of black oppression. All black people are oppressed. I emphasize here that black men are oppressed because ultimately, listen to this. This is why another point, and I'm going to get into the scriptures too after this, but this is why another point why you shouldn't be wearing a dress. So she says, all black people are oppressed. I emphasize here that black men are oppressed because ultimately it is male muscle mass that oppresses a people. And only male muscle mass has the potential for achieving liberation. Brothers and sisters, women ain't gonna liberate you. You've never seen it. I'm not talking, what about Harriet Tubman? That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about straight up war against your oppressor to get free. Obviously, women have taken part in revolution, but it's not women that's leading the revolutions. It's not, because why? Because the strongest physically fight. And I'm not, again, you've seen women fight, don't get me wrong, but ultimately that's a male dominated arena. And rightfully so. As they say, leave the men, leave the women and children, leave them at home. That's what it is. That's what it is. So if you want to get free, you can't look to, you go, oh, the women and children gonna get us free. No, it's the men and the men should be fighting for the freedom, not just themselves, but of their women and their progeny, and be willing to die. And they have throughout generations. But some kind of way that what is in me, all of a sudden, that's wrong. I'm talking about in general in society now. But that's what propels society. And men have not come to the realization because of the social program of being so strong and just in every facet practically of life is that they don't understand that if they don't go along with the program, they won't be subject to the program. That's men in general. But nevertheless, because this feminism that's detrimental, men have to actually go along with it. Just like black people right now are going along with the program of genocide and walking into these clinics to kill their children. Same thing. You are complicit in your own demise. But nevertheless, it says again, it is male muscle mass that oppresses the people, and only male muscle mass has the potential for achieving liberation. If the men of a people are oppressed, the women are brought under oppression, as they are dependent on their men for protection and defense. You could talk that all the women independent, throw your hands up at me when it's all said and done. When you are attacked in the street, and if it's a bunch of males coming standing around and don't nobody intervene, it could have been your fault. But then you talk crazy, hit a man, and he knocked you in the next week, and another man don't intervene. All the women want, well, how come these men don't intervene? Why? Because you know deep down inside that your protector is a man. See, all that I can protect me, that's fine. Yeah, take that self-defense class. Yeah, go to the gun range. Yeah, you better carry pepper spray. I'm not saying don't do that. You need to protect yourself, but ultimately you understand when you hear them rumblings downstairs, somebody breaking in, your man ain't, if he a man, he ain't sending you down there. You didn't grab his arm. You woke him up. I hear something at the door. And he got to go down there and handle it. You there with the phone. That's how that works. Usually. You got some women out here, but at the end of the day, they still can't deal with even the average man, even women that's trained. If you think about it, I give you an example of this, which is wrong, which is another thing I might talk about if I got time. They were in the UFC. They had women's division and men divisions. And they go by weight classes. Well, they had a transgender, and they didn't know, from my understanding, they didn't know that the person was biologically a man fighting these women. And what was he doing? He was beating the brakes off of these women. Why? Because men are stronger. See all that stuff. When you look at it, be like, oh man, you watch Taraji Henderson. She got a movie where she the secret agent or something. Or you got a movie where you got Wonder Woman. Or you got a movie where you got all these movies where these women beating up these men that outweigh them by 120 pounds. They train themselves. They also train, but they beating them up in high heel shoes. Give me a break. That's not reality. And that's what she's talking about here. Like the bus driver said, man, she spit on him and hit him. He said, man, he hit her with an uppercut that Mike Tyson would be proud of. Not saying he's proud of hitting a woman. I'm just saying that was I watch boxing a lot. That was a perfect punch. And he says, he said something. They said, what did everybody standing around? They said, man, that's a female. He said, I don't care. You want to act like a man, I'm going to treat you like one. That's how men get treated by other men. And it's that muscle man. See, you can't do nothing with that. And that's what she's talking about. So, and I'm not, please don't think I'm advocating hitting women. Don't put your hands on women. I'm on page 84. Women do not have the muscle mass to liberate a people and protect the young. Women develop the young, but their men must provide the protection and the security apparatus. I'm going to say that again. Everybody had a role to play. We don't know how to play our position. Women develop the young, but their men must provide the protection and the security apparatus. So if this is the case, you need to consider, why did I come here? Because you need to consider a man in a dress. Let's keep reading. The global white male collective understands the priority of white domination. They fully understand consciously or unconsciously. Because you think about it, when they were castrating them people and that fear of genetic annihilation, that was unconscious. They understood, but it was in their subconscious. You know what I mean? They were like, they understood, but it was something that perhaps was not expressed verbally, that these men could literally wipe out our whole group with their dominant genes. Because any children they have is going to be a children as they would view in their mind, not from a biblical perspective, but in their mind, that these are children who are no longer white. Why? Because white, that's all recessive. White skin or lighter skin, light eyes, light hair, that's all recessive. So true integration, sexual integration could literally mean that no more white folks. That's what she means. She talks about genetic annihilation. But nevertheless, it says the global white male collective understands the priority of white domination. They fully understand consciously or unconsciously the threat that black men represent to them. Also, white males realize that in the final analysis, the vast majority of females must submit to males because of their lesser muscle mass. Right? It's like that picture. I keep seeing this picture on Facebook where it's a daunting picture. It's a black female. She's been sexually assaulted by a white slave, look like an overseer. And then she looking at her man, she's screaming at him, a black man who's beaten into submission and saying, why didn't you protect me? Additionally, white males fully understand that males who are forced, now listen, I'm gonna read that one again, then I'm gonna go. Also, white males realize that in the final analysis, the vast majority of females must submit to males because of their lesser muscle mass. So like women have been a spoil of war. So when you look at the sexual violation of black women during slavery, during the era of Jim Crow, in our penal institutions right now, they are deemed as spoils of war in a fight that has been going on for hundreds of years. So it says here, additionally, now think about this dress. Additionally, white males fully understand that males who are forced to identify as females will be programmed simultaneously into submission to the males they call the man, as opposed to aggressing against those same men. White men in this world area have at least a vague, perhaps unconscious understanding that after 20 generations of 400 years, male passivity has evolved into male effeminization, bisexuality, and homosexuality. These patterns of behavior are simply expressions of male self-submission to other males in the area of people activity called sex. Males also can submit to males in any of the other 8 areas of people activity, which I believe she gets this from Nellie Fuller, but they are economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, and war. Entertainment, what we just saw, or what I just described as far as the man in the tuxedo gown. Oppression is forced submission and cooperation in any of the areas of people activity. Okay? So that's something to think about, because how you gonna be a man in a dress? I'm a man in a dress. No, no. Let's go to no, that's a difference. And he makes this distinction. You should just wear dresses as a man. This is Deuteronomy, the 22nd chapter and verse 5. Deuteronomy 22nd, the 22nd chapter and verse 5. It said, the woman shall not wear that which pertaineth unto a man, neither shall a man put on a woman's garment, for all that do so are abomination unto the Lord thy God. Why? Because he made you male and female. He makes that distinction clearly. And he didn't make you to be a woman. That's just what it is. But when you think about it, there's a push to effeminize black men, period, because you are always the threat. You are always the threat. And in accepting this, the man, like I said, a man married to a white man, accepting this, you are also in violation of this law. Let's go to Leviticus. Because keeping with the theme of death culture, I'm gonna pick it up at Leviticus 20 and verse 13. See, I want to read something. I'm gonna read verse 4, and then I'm gonna go to verse 13. Verse 4, because he told them at the very beginning, right? Whosoever he be of the children, or actually in verse 4, because he's telling all these things that these other nations are doing. Okay, these are the things that, if you go to probably about the 18th chapter, and he starts listing all these things that you shouldn't do, and these are the things that these other nations are doing. Then he says something in verse 4. He says, and if thy people of the land do anyways hide their eyes from the man when he giveth of his seed unto Molech. What is he talking about? In verse 2, he says, again, thou shalt say to the children of Israel, whosoever he be of the children of Israel or of the strangers that sojourn in Israel, that giveth any of his seed unto Molech, he shall surely be put to death. The people of the land shall stone him with stones. That's because these people are offering up their children unto Molech, who was a false god of the Ammonites. Okay, that they dealt in child sacrifices. Why am I reading that? That I talked about that the other day. That was such a terrible thing. But you think about it, we sacrificing our children right now on the altar of convenience. Baby, inconvenient. You done lay down, fornicated with somebody you don't even hardly know, and gave you that $800 or however much it is to get an abortion. See, that's where we at right now. Same type of thing. It ain't like you sacrificing up to some false god, but you straight up sacrifice. You straight up, man, do you know what an abortionist does? And then what they do with the body parts of these aborted fetuses? You should do research and find out. Now I want to pick it up at verse. So that's death culture. But I came here for this. Leviticus 20th chapter and verse 13. It says, if a man also lie with mankind as he lies with a woman, both of them have committed an abomination. They shall surely be put to death. Their blood shall be upon them. See, that's death culture. That's death culture, brothers and sisters. And that's what we have accepted wholesale in this American sojourn, is this death culture. The effeminization of black men, the just emasculation. So we shouldn't, you got to think about it. How is it beneficial for our men to be homosexual? I'll wait. It's not beneficial at all. Because again, if you're dealing with homosexuality, Number one, you're not producing. Number two, it's a death culture. Because it's more, you obviously in spiritual darkness. You read Romans 1, you understand that, but also it's leading to, you think about who has HIV and AIDS more so than anybody. Black gay men and black heterosexual women. But you look at places like Atlanta. Look at Atlanta right now, where the HIV AIDS rate is comparable to sub-Saharan Africa. You look, I just saw an article today where it was talking about Detroit. Detroit, you know, was a black city, a struggling black city. The HIV rate is 4 times that of the average in the city, in the other cities in Michigan. That's death culture, brothers and sisters. That's straight up death culture. How in the world can we prosper if we are engaged in activity that is contrary to life? Abortion, homosexuality, and also murder. We understand. Because we understand what we did to get put in this position. And we understand that in this position, we have been the prey of these people. Historically, we should understand that the ghettos that we lived in the urban areas and still live in places like Chicago and Detroit and places in New York City and Baltimore, places out west in California and parts of Texas, wherever we dwell in New Orleans, and we struggling, understand, white people made those ghettos. They made the conditions. Ultimately, we initially sinned against God and were put under the prey as these people like hammers, and they got we the nails and they the hammer. That's what's happened. But ultimately, even if that be the case, we still, even in pop, don't have to do the things that we're doing. Let's read some here. And this is the last place. This is Hosea, the 4th chapter, and verse 1. Hosea 4:1. It says, "Hear the word of the Lord, ye children of Israel. For the Lord hath a controversy with the inhabitants of the land, because there is no truth, nor mercy, nor knowledge of God in the land." And that's so he's talking about in Israel amongst the people. The irony is they should have all the truth, all the mercy, all the knowledge of God, because that's who God manifested himself unto. But he said this is a sinful nation. So it says, by swearing and lying and killing and stealing and committing adultery, they break out, and blood toucheth blood. So that's what we have right now. Illicit sexual behavior, right? 70%. Well, it said right here, adultery. But if you look at it, 70+% of our children are born out of wedlock. And when you talk about it, don't put another verse up here. Don't put another verse up here. Let me tell you, so I don't know what you think this is, and it's not that. Don't put another verse up there. By swearing and lying and killing and stealing and committing adultery, they break out, and blood touches blood. See, we are engaged in death culture. So when I was talking about 70% of our children born outside of wedlock, those women who have, black women that have multiple children, 50+% of them are by 2 different fathers or more than one father. That's death of the family structure, brothers and sisters. That's destruction of the. So if you've destroyed, if you've killed the institution of marriage, the family structure, the children that get born into the world, they are at a disadvantage. Why? Because they are coming into broken homes. And so these are the ones that are more susceptible to dealing in violence, to being to committing murder, to being juvenile delinquents, to being violent in their own relationships, to ending up in prison, to having a lack of education. And then you get into prison, that's death. That's a social death. We engage in this 50% of us in the prisons. We are dealing in death culture, brothers and sisters. That's what we're dealing with, death culture. So again, he said, by swearing and lying and killing and stealing and committing adultery, they break out in blood touches blood. See, there's no moral compass. There's no morality, just like it is today. And ironically, we have more churches per capita, I would estimate, than any other group. You look in our community, we got church, chicken shack, nail salon, church, abandoned building, abandoned a building. That's what we got in our neighborhoods. So if you got all these churches, what in the world do you hear in these churches? Obviously not correction, obviously not the law of God. As a matter of fact, these poop-butt so-called Christian ministers have taken the law, the Torah, off the table and say you don't have to keep it. They say you don't have to keep it. They say you don't have to keep it. It said, therefore shall the land mourn, and everyone that dwelleth therein shall languish with the beasts of the field and with the fowls of heaven. Yea, the fishes of the sea also shall be taken away. See, you're going to lose what you have because you're not righteous. And you're not righteous because you don't have ministers. You don't have preachers. You don't have pastors and teachers to tell you what thus saith the Lord. That's your problem. That's our problem. And that's why we got a death culture. And with that, brothers and sisters, I want to remind you that we're at the Household of Faith. Meet every Sabbath at 5925 West 25th Avenue in Gary, Indiana at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. Again, that's the Household of Faith. We meet every Sabbath at 5925 West 25th Avenue at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. We also live stream right here at the Israel Teach YouTube channel at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. As well as one more verse, Ezekiel, the 22nd chapter. How you got all these churches, but you got a deaf culture? Because they blind leaders of the blind. And if the blind lead the blind, they both shall fall in the ditch. So on your way to hell, we just dealing in our lives are miserable. Ezekiel, the 22nd chapter. And we'll pick it up at verse 26. Ezekiel 22 and verse 26. Because like I said, these ministers have taken the law off the table. This is Ezekiel, the 22nd chapter, verse 26. It said, her priests have violated my law and profaned my holy things. They have put no difference between the holy and profane. Neither have they showed difference between the unclean and the clean, and have hid their eyes from my Sabbaths, and I am profane among them. How in the world we got all these churches, brothers and sisters, but so much immorality? That doesn't even go together. It does if you go to church and say you don't have to keep the law, and that's what they say in most of these Christian churches. You don't have to keep the law. You don't have a moral compass. So all you got to do is say you believe in Jesus, go to church to praise him, and then go about your wretched life. And why am I saying wretched? It's wretched because it's full of sin. That's why. So with that, again, I want to remind you that we're at the Household of Faith. Meet every Sabbath at 5925 West 25th Avenue in Gary, Indiana. We invite you to come out and worship with us, where you can hear the uncut, unadulterated word of God. You can check us out right here on the Israel Teach YouTube channel, as well as at www.israelteach.org. We also live stream on our website. Our website is www.israelteach.org. Again, that's www.israelteach.org. If you've been edified through the ministry, you can leave a donation. 100% of the proceeds go to the work of the ministry. And we've been able to do is to be such a small congregation. We've been able to do some very good things, and by the assistance of those who donate. And we appreciate you truly. And your money is going to, yeah, not us, but to the work of the ministry. Like I said, I'm proud of that to be so small. I'm talking about we small, but to be so small, we don't have a mortgage because have a sound building used to be a library because of the donations and the diligence of people. And so we're thankful for that. And with that, brothers and sisters, peace. And peace to everybody that's listening. Peace to everybody that's listening. Let me say this, because this sister, I guess it's sister, I don't even know. But yeah, you can't put Bible verses up here. So you might be like, man, why you snap at me? Because you can't put Bible verses up here. I'm the teacher on this page. I take that seriously. That's not no ego trip. I'm dealing with the word of God, and I want this Bible to speak, and that's what's doing the talking here. Okay, so that's why we ain't got we don't have no suggestions. Don't so sometimes people can feel like that's rude, but it is what it is. So that's not me trying to be rude. That's just me just letting you know, because I removed one and then you put another one up there so you didn't get the message. So with that, so it's my prayer that you were edified.